Good vibes are on the way.
I love the feel-good stories.
Oh, there'll be sarcasm mixed in, but that just adds to her charm.
So great. I love listening.
Welcome to Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency.
Hi, welcome back to Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency. I'm Erin. It is great to have you here today. As a massive ally, I was not going to allow Pride Month to go by without having a special feature for you. And this time I decided to do something a little different, and that is find out about an organization that supports allies, and it's called PFLAG. I've heard of it for years, but I really didn't know all of what PFLAG does and the people that they serve and the difference that they make. And when you find out how it all started, oh my gosh, you're going to love this story. One woman, one mama had enough, and she began this organization decades ago. It is so necessary. They do incredible work, and they are all over not just the country, but the world. And I found somebody super cool at our local chapter here in Boston to tell you all about it. So I'm really looking forward to this chat today. I have Nina Salvaggio with me, and she is a representative from an organization that I've heard about for years, but truly don't know a lot about, and I'm going to learn right along with you. It is PFLAG. Hi.
Hi, Erin. I'm so excited to be here.
What is your title with PFLAG?
Yep. I am the executive director of the Greater Boston PFLAG chapter. So we are part of a national organization, and there are PFLAGs in most every state throughout the country and even in other countries.
Oh, I love that. I didn't realize it had expanded to other countries as well. Can you take me back to when and how and why this started?
Sure. So I love our founding story. It is an inspiration for me, but also harkens to the idea that all of us have the power to bring about significant change. So in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a woman by the name of Jean Manford. She lived in Brooklyn, New York. She had a gay son by the name of Morty Manford. Morty was really involved with the gay and lesbian liberation movement. That's like one of the very first civil rights formal organizations back in the 60s. And Morty was working with a bunch of other gay and lesbian New York City folks trying to make the world a better place for gay and lesbian people. The New York City Council, there was some statute that they were considering to extend some more rights to residents of New York City who were gay and lesbian. I don't know exactly what all the nuance was, but Morty and his friends were in favor of it. And there was a gathering of city employees at a hotel. And so Morty and some other folks went with signs, and they were protesting in favor, trying to bring about awareness that this group of city officials should be in favor of this statute. And some of the city officials came out of the hotel, and Morty was brutally assaulted by the fire commissioner of the city.
Oh my
of New York.
God.
Yes. Morty was hospitalized. And later on, the fire commissioner was acquitted of any crime. And Jean Manford, his mama, who was an elementary school teacher in Brooklyn, was outraged. And she thought, how can someone beat up my son who's doing nothing wrong but advocating for more rights, the same rights, love, suffer at the hands of this person, and there's no consequences? So Jean picked up a piece of paper and a pen, and she wrote a letter to the editor of the New York Post and basically said, I love my son. I love my kids. I think Morty should have the same rights as everyone else. He should be safe. He should be loved. And the New York Post printed it. And it was
I love that.
Right. And it was the first time in U.S. history that a major publication had printed anything deemed pro-gay at that time. So that Jean had this beautiful letter to the editor, and that sort of kicked off her passion. Later that year, Morty had asked both of his parents to walk in what was back then known as the Christopher Street Commemorative Parade, which was honoring Stonewall and is now our modern day Pride. So they did. They walked with their son, and she held a sign that basically said, like, I love my gay son. Our gay and lesbian kids should be safe and free. And by the end of the day, dozens of gay men had approached her and said, "Oh my gosh, will you help my parents understand me? Will you help my parents come to terms with this?" And 9 months later, to that date, she held a support group in a church basement in New York City.
Wow, that gives me chills from head to toe. One person can make all the difference, and wow, did she?
She really did. Like, she led from a place of like mama bear protecting her kid and understood the power of love and sending that message out broader outside of her own family, right? And it wasn't for her just about loving Morty. It was about all these other gay and lesbian kids. Like, their parents should love them too.
And even, from the very beginning of this whole movement, just the fact that so many gay men went over to her and said, "Can you speak to my family? Because they don't understand, and I
Right.
need basically my own advocate
Right.
to be able to live my own life." It's
Right.
just such a powerful, sad statement that she heard over and over again and then decided to do something about that.
Right. Right. I mean, it was brilliant, right? Because I think at the core, what Jean saw and what we see today is that parents and caregivers want to love their kids and don't always have the tools. And there are lots of other powerful messages, whether it comes from faith based groups, your own upbringing, your traditions. There are lots of messages out there that say somehow, somewhere, gay and lesbian, and now we've expanded it to bisexual, transgender folks, are so different that they don't always deserve equity or equality or love. And I think Gene fundamentally felt that. Morty would get harassed a lot. He was at Stonewall when the uprising happened, and
Oh,
he would
wow.
get harassed a lot by police because in the late 60s and 70s, gay and lesbian folks were getting arrested and still could lose their jobs. And it was a crime. And they would call Gene and say, like, "We have your son. We arrested him. And did you know he's gay? Like, we found him at a gay bar." And she would be incredulous and say, like, "Stop harassing my son. Why are you bothering me? Why are you bothering him? Like, leave them alone." And I think her behaviors inspire us still today to empower parents to find their voice, to figure out how to get over those obstacles, whether it's your extended family, whether it's a school community, whether it's, the little league in your town. We try and give people those tools and sort of those pep talks, right? Like, that's what our support groups today do. It's parents and caregivers talking to each other, saying, "Oh, yeah, I've heard that once too, and I've tried this, or I did that, or what would it mean if fill in the blank?" And I think parents hearing and seeing other parents loving their kids unconditionally and then having the tools, there's nothing but love then there.
Right. And you're saying having the tools. Can you give some examples about what PFLAG does for family, friends, people that are coming in that want to understand more about the gay community and
Yeah.
how they can, I don't want to say be more accepting, because I would hope that many people coming through the doors already are. But I also am thinking that there's got to be people who, like you said, I want to love my family member, but I don't understand this
Right.
and I need to
Right.
understand it better. And so,
Right.
can you give me some examples about things that PFLAG does and provides?
Sure, sure. And I think it's fair for everyone, for folks who want to love us and access the LGBTQ community, they don't necessarily have all the answers and know all the information. So I think it's fair that they come with lots of questions and needs. And so we believe we can create a better world by doing three things. We can offer educational support. So we do trainings in schools, community based groups, religious institutions, places of work where we go in. We have about 10 different trainings. You can choose what's right for your community. And we do like an LGBTQ 101 where we really explain what is sexual orientation, what is gender identity, what does it mean to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. And no question is stupid, right? Like, we believe they should be safe spaces and everyone should be able to ask whatever they're thinking, right? Like, we want to be a resource and meet people where they're at. Like, I did a training once and this woman raised her hand and she said, "Who gets to decide what letters are in the acronym?" And It's like,
Okay. There's a question. No questions are stupid. So, okay.
so I like giggled and I was like, oh, there's a committee of us in Washington, D.C. But I was like, no, seriously. So, you know, there's lots of questions and people wonder, like, I'm 52. I'm a 52-year-old lesbian and I am by far not hip at all. And I cannot keep up. Like my 15-year-old will reiterate that, but I cannot keep up with what all the younger queer folks are doing, right? And so I am constantly learning too, like new phrases, new identities, new ways to talk about things, just like any and all of us parents. Like we are clueless about younger generations. And so,
So true.
we don't expect straight older people to understand what's happening. Like I don't even understand what's happening. So we offer these educational trainings. They're anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. A lot of times we invite like a real live gay person to come. They tell a story that people then can ask questions about. Sometimes we have our parents. A parent will come and talk about their journey to accepting their child and embracing them. I do think sometimes acceptance, it's a very big loaded word, but I do think there's a lot that goes into fully accepting, right? So we share personal stories, folks can ask any questions, and our hope is you take one of our trainings, you take several of our trainings, and then you have more resources, right? And you can better advocate for the person you love, or the burden to educate yourself doesn't lie with your LGBTQ loved one, right? So you're not asking your gay son all the questions you want to know answers to. You're asking other, maybe strangers or other people, right? And so then you can have a conversation with him that starts from step 5, not step 1, because you did all those other steps before you talked to him.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think it gives people, parents, family members more confidence. Then they feel safer. I think people are really worried that they're going to say the wrong thing.
Sure.
And so if we can give you some more education, if we can build your confidence, we can give you the language and also permission to make mistakes.
So important.
Right? Like, it's okay if you mess up a pronoun. It's okay if you ask a question that isn't the way they preferred it to be asked. You apologize and you move on, right? You learn from it. Like, oh, I didn't realize I shouldn't ask it that way, right?
Right. I'll do better next time.
I'll do better next time.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we try and do with our trainings. So that's one way we do the work. The support groups is another way. And the support groups is very specific to caregivers or family members. So that's like another opportunity for folks to learn and pick up tools. We have on our website, we have resources, we have toolkits, we have one pagers that explain things. We have a pronoun like one pager to help people understand.
Oh, that's good.
Right. So like easy, decipherable. We try and create all of our resources at a reading level that is accessible to everyone. So it's not like heavy research based. It's not jargony. And then last but not least, I think one of the ways we try and get the message out or engage people is through advocacy. And advocacy is definitely is part of voting, right? Getting out to vote, being part of your
Absolutely.
community. But it is also when you hear someone say something really homophobic at Thanksgiving and you're an ally, you're not the LGBTQ person, you are advocating for a different perspective. Right? Like you are stepping up and stepping in so that the mom of the gay kid doesn't have to, or the gay kid themselves doesn't have to, right?
That is so fantastic. What a great point that is, because I feel like so many people, so many allies have been in a position like that. And my immediate reaction is to defend, and I go at whoever is
Yeah.
saying things that
Yeah.
are ignorant and negative, and I don't have any tolerance for that. I'm going to actually go on the website and just get more information about the proper way to kind of diffuse a situation instead of going straight forward at somebody that doesn't make the meal any more comfortable. So I'm glad that you have that resource.
Right. Well, there are lots of tactics, and some people feel like if they can't come at them aggressively, then they don't do anything, right? Or
Yeah.
and some people feel like I don't know the language or how to talk about this. And everyone feels like they have to be an expert and be able to pull from all these datas and facts. And it's really not about any of that, right? Like
Mhm.
you can approach people with the style that works for you. And you don't have to be able to back it all up with studies and research. And people get overwhelmed, I think, by all of that. And for us, like our tagline is leading with love. And I think what we try and impart upon allies is if you can approach the conversation or the retort from a place of love, right? You're not trying to eviscerate the person. You're simply saying, hey, like in our house, we don't talk about gay and lesbian people that way, right? We love everyone, and kindness is the expectation. I think allies underestimate the power of that simple message, right? You don't have to like be an encyclopedia. You don't have to know it all, but a simple message of, oh, we don't talk about people that way in our house, I think really, really takes the pressure off the gay and lesbian people and in the room and their immediate family. Because I feel like the immediate family, and that's who we primarily serve, are often on the front lines, right? You're at your kid's soccer game and someone says something transphobic, and you are sitting there trying to figure out as the mom, the sister, like, do I step up? What do I say? How do I say it? And
Right.
so if your best friend steps in and says something, even better.
Absolutely. That's such a great way to explain everything as well, because there have been times when I'm somewhere, be it a meal or a party, and there actually aren't any gay people there, but I hear somebody talk about somebody that they know or in a derogatory way, and I just won't have it. It gets me so fired up, especially if nobody else is there to defend that person or everybody else around is just accepting it, tolerating it,
Yeah.
not saying anything to defend or to explain that that's not an appropriate way to act. You're an adult. Are you kidding me? I don't have time for that. And
Mhm.
that is not allowed or accepted in my presence. Sorry.
I wish everyone was like that. I think it has become less socially acceptable to outright say something homophobic. I think what we're seeing nationally is trans people and their families are being targeted without apology. I mean, in general, this administration does not talk about any kind of different person kindly.
It matters who's in charge.
It does. It matters who's role modeling. And so, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this generation of kids. They're growing up in a culture of upstanding instead of a bystander. They're being taught to be upstanders and how bullying is bad. I know, like, I'm trying to raise my two kids to be upstanders when they see something wrong happening, right? Like, you step up, you say something. What we know is kids who are loved unconditionally. It doesn't have to be two parents. It doesn't have to be a parent. We know that kids who are loved by at least one adult in their life who tells them they are perfect exactly as they are. So that's your theater teacher, that's your soccer coach, that's an English teacher, that's your aunt. They tell you you are perfect exactly how you are. That reduces that kid's likelihood of attempting suicide by 40%.
That's a staggering statistic.
And so what it says to me, Erin, it is staggering. And to me, it says to us, all of us adults, any of us can be that one person for that LGBTQ kid,
Yes.
right? So a friend, your kid's friends, like, you can be that mom in their life when they come over. You tell them how fantastic they are. You pay attention to them for 5 minutes. You listen to them tell you a story. You show them unconditional love. And that kid is more likely to come to you when they're struggling than maybe someone who lives with them, because that person, those people, do not accept them.
And you don't know what somebody's home life is like. So the more accepting, kind, and curious you can be as an ally, the better.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. So while there is depressing data and statistics, and it does feel like we're in this really terrible moment of time where often it doesn't feel hopeful, right? Like, there's not a lot, like, you turn on the TV and you're like, oh God, like, there's not a lot of good stuff out there.
That's why I started the podcast, girl, because I needed happy.
Right. why I appreciate your podcast. There is some power in all of us knowing that we can change one person's life. The people that we come into contact with, we can really fortify them with that love and let them feel like, oh, I'm okay exactly how I am. Like you see a cute kid wearing makeup, right? And you say, oh my God, I love your makeup. That may be the only positive message that kid has ever gotten about wearing makeup.
Wow.
And it's a small thing and fortifies, inoculates them against the next hateful thing that someone does say.
Yeah. Gives them something to think about when something awful is said next. You're right.
Right. And so when I feel really depressed and feel like the bad news is just coming at me like a fire hose, I think about our parents who say, coming to PFLAG saved my family's life. I had one parent who showed me how to love my kid unconditionally or taught me how to love my kid unconditionally. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. Breaking it down in really basic ways that I think parents, we already know, but sometimes get overwhelmed by the fact that your kid says, I'm transgender. It's like, ugh, all of a sudden you lose track of what the most important things are. And I try and remember that we touch so many people's lives, whether it's an LGBTQ employee sitting in a training who all of a sudden sees that his colleagues around him are really accepting and he was afraid to come out, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden sees like, oh, maybe I can be who I am. There's lots of little moments like that that I think, okay, there's still goodness in the world. There's still people who want to do right by each other. And then like this generation, my kids, they don't understand the animosity towards LGBTQ people. That's not a thing for them.
That's great.
I see that and I think, okay, this is a moment in time, but we're going to get through it. And there's enough goodness. There's enough people who harness that power of goodness that we will persevere.
What made you want to work for PFLAG?
Like lots of LGBTQ people, one of my very first memories at my very first Pride Parade, I was in Washington, D.C. at their Pride Parade. I had just come out right around the same time as Ellen, but my coming out was not as exciting or did not welcome as much fanfare as Ellen's did.
Or public?
Right. It was not as exciting. And I was watching the parade and a PFLAG contingency came marching down, right down the street. And it's all these mom and dad characters who look like everyday average people. And they are holding signs similar to what Jean Manford's sign said in 1971. They're blowing kisses at people and they're stopping to hug people. And I remember I cried. Like I thought I did not have PFLAG parents. And I thought, oh my gosh, look at these moms and dads who love their LGBTQ kid, so much so that they're brave enough to take to the streets, just like Jean Manford, and profess their love. And then they were like loving on all of us, perfect strangers. It stuck with me. It really stuck with me. And PFLAG through the years, I've seen them at lots of parades. I've stood with PFLAG parents in the State House as we were fighting for marriage equality. PFLAG parents have blown all of my preconceived notions around who's an ally and who's not an ally. You're on the train and you look around and you think, oh, that person's probably not an ally. Like I need to like tamp down my gayness for this ride to make sure they... But then I would meet PFLAG parents and they were like older, bald guys who I thought would never be an ally to an LGBTQ person, right? Like my preconceived notions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think PFLAG parents, for me, have really embodied love and have really, showed parents and families and other allies and that there's a different way to be in the world. Everyone can be an ally, and you don't necessarily have to start out as an ally, but that doesn't mean you're not ending your journey on earth as an ally, right? Like they're just delightful. So many sweet stories. I mean, I was at Pride a couple weeks ago now and saw a dad. So I walked with my family and all of PFLAG. So there was about 50 of us. And there was a dad on the sidelines who said, free dad hugs. And like, I burst into tears.
Mm.
It's so sweet.
I actually had the founder of Free Mom Hugs, Sarah Cunningham, came on my podcast a couple months ago. And wow, I love everything about her, her story. And what's remarkable is that she, in the beginning, had a rough time because
Right.
she's from the deep South
Right.
and she belonged to a church that absolutely preached that anything having to do with homosexuality would make you go straight to hell.
Right.
And we're going to get you shock therapy and whatever else has to happen for us to pray the gay out of you, kind of thing. And
Save your soul.
once she really started talking to her son and understanding him and that this is what's going to make his life his own and this is who he is, once she finally let go of what she had been taught forever and just listened to him, it made all the difference. And she started Free Mom Hugs. And
Right.
I love that organization. They
Right.
are all
Me
over
too.
the world now. And it's very much like what PFLAG does in that they are there to embrace and they are there to love and to support. And I love that you had that experience with a dad that had a shirt.
Yes, it was so sweet. And like, I was standing with my 15-year-old son and I said, "Oh my God, I'm crying over that t-shirt." And the guy was just an everyday looking guy. And I think that that continues to like blow my mind that I could see him in not his free dad hugs t-shirt and maybe make assumptions about him. And I think so many of us as LGBTQ folks have, especially older ones, we've struggled with our families. And so there's something so sweet about free mom hugs and hits to the core of who we are. Like you just want your parents' love and acceptance unconditionally, right? And that's why I fell in love with PFLAG. That's why 4 years ago, I started working professionally with them. And I feel really lucky every day to do this work. Really lucky to stand with some of these folks who are amazing allies from all walks of life who show up for me and other LGBTQ people in their lives with like amazing, fierce love. The power of it can't be underestimated.
So, being there for as long as you have, I'm guessing there's a story or two that you can share about maybe somebody that came in and was overwhelmed with the news that someone that they're close to is gay and wasn't sure how to handle it, but wanted to learn more and now is a proud ally.
So, a lot do come to mind. I will tell one story about one of our super volunteers. So, when she first started, her kiddo came out to her and said, "I think I'm transgender." So, she first started coming to our support groups. She is an immigrant to this country. And so, her culture is not necessarily fluent in anything that has to do with being openly transgender. And so she was completely overwhelmed and there was language barriers. And so she did not know what to do. So started coming to support groups and found friends, made other mom friends, found people who could explain things to her in ways that she could understand, gave her the opportunity to ask questions that she didn't want to ask her kid, but was curious about. She then later on that year went to her very first Pride Parade, and PFLAG walks every year, but she was too nervous and did not feel like she could walk. She could not muster the courage to walk. So she watched. Great. The next year when Pride came around, she wound up jumping in and walking with us.
Oh,
And from that moment on, has become one of our support group facilitators.
oh
She
my God.
leads other parents along in their journey. She is one of our biggest advocates and allies. She will go to the state house and knock on her state senator's door and say, like, "Listen, we need to do this and we need to do it for these reasons." When her child hit so many obstacles in the medical field, she became her own walking encyclopedia of insurance terms and figured out how to navigate the medical world. And she is now someone who, when I get a parent who's struggling, when they call us, we have a hotline, I will often call her and say, "Will you talk to this parent?"
Oh my God.
She was one of our awardees a few years ago at our annual event, and she will proudly stand up at the podium. But when she first started this journey, she was super nervous and scared and embarrassed to say any of it out loud and didn't know how to talk about it. And now she's like this amazing mom encyclopedia of all this knowledge and wants to share it with everyone. So that was like a tremendous transformation.
Wow, you're not kidding. That is remarkable.
Full 180. And her and her husband walked with us this year in Pride. And she was like giving out stickers to everyone, wishing everyone a happy Pride. And to think less than 10 years ago, she had a completely different visceral reaction to seeing it all. Other stories of parents who come. One parent I'm thinking about, her husband really struggled. She came, she was really trying to figure it all out. And eventually she built up the courage to ask him to join her in coming to support groups. And so the two of them started coming together. And he was much more skeptical, nervous, right, resistant. And she just kept saying, keep coming to meetings with me. And then it was like a switch flipped for him. And one day he was like, I don't get why I was so upset about all of this. Like, our kid is still our kid. I still love them. He was able to move forward with no hesitation. It took him a longer incubation period. And then he was like, okay, I got it. I'm good.
That is what I hope all parents get to. That want to be an ally, want to understand, want to support their loved one. I pray that they all get to that point because it's your flesh and blood. Whoever somebody loves, however anyone identifies themselves, that is their life to lead. And
Right.
your job as a parent is to love them through it.
Right. Love them through it. Love them unconditionally.
PFLAG is such a perfect example of one person seeing a need and finding a way to fill it,
Right.
and then how that just grew and grew and grew. And you're all over not just the country, but the world now. And I
Yes.
read that there are more than 400 chapters just in the United States alone.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is incredible. And I figured that there'd be a PFLAG in every major city, but there isn't. However, I also read that during COVID, just like everybody, we're trying to figure out how to do things online and still be
Yeah.
the support system that people needed. And so, with that, even if you don't have one in whatever town you
Yep.
are in, you can still connect. And
Totally.
especially now online, that you have those resources
Yep.
that COVID gave us all.
Totally. Totally. We in Greater Boston, we have 17 groups that meet in person. So throughout the Greater Boston area, people go to their local community group, church, synagogue basement, etc. But then we also have 2 a month that are virtual. And those are based on identities. So we have one for parents and caregivers of littles, and we have a Jewish family one, and we have a tween one, and etc. etc. Grandparents, we have a grandparents one. And those folks can log in from anywhere and join a breakout room that is all other grandparents talking about their grandchildren, most of them that they love, but don't necessarily understand or want to better understand, right? And so that was probably the one good thing that came out of COVID is figuring out how do we reach more people when we're not all physically in the same space. And so we still have all those resources. National PFLAG still has some of those resources. So yeah, we try and meet everyone where they're at, but we try and bring that message of love in all the different ways we can.
If you could sum up PFLAG with maybe just a sentence or two as to what the mission is, what would you say?
I would say we are working to create a more just, affirming, and caring world for LGBTQ folks and the people who love them. That's all we're trying to do. Like I said, our tagline is leading with love. We really believe there can be more love in the world, and LGBTQ folks are everywhere. And if we give you some education, you're going to find yourself wanting to be a powerful, vocal ally.
I love that. Oh, thank
Mm.
you so much for everything you do, for all the people that you have helped. I know you could tell story after story of people that have come in wide eyed, not sure what questions to ask, and end up leaving with such a different perspective and understanding and love.
Right. We see it every day. It's powerful. It's good stuff.
PFLAG.org, is that the website?
National PFLAG is pflag.org. But if people want to find our resources for Greater Boston, it's gbpflag.org.
Thank you so, so much. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Erin. Thank you for having me.
You got it. Thank
Thank you for
you.
being a fabulous ally and voice for love and kindness.
Forever and ever. It is my pleasure. Thank you so much, Nina. I loved learning all about PFLAG. I knew it was a great organization, but had no idea how long it had been around and all the difference that you are all really making every single day. If somebody in your world, somebody you're close to, has just come out to you and maybe you have some questions or you want to get a better understanding, PFLAG is absolutely the place to go. You can call them anytime. You can go to pflag.org. That is the national site. And like Nina told us, gbpflag.org for the greater Boston one. Now, we got about a week left of Pride Month. And if you are new to my podcast, welcome. I love having you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I last year during Pride Month had an amazing gentleman on with me. His name is Dan Blevins. You may have heard of him. He went viral years ago for offering to be a stand-in dad for a woman who was getting married and her own father disowned her because she was marrying a woman. And Dan said, "Oh, you need somebody to walk you down the aisle? I'd be honored." And he really did that. Then he created something called Stand in Pride, which is a beautiful organization worldwide now where people not only stand in for things like weddings, but big occasions where their family, their friends have ostracized them because of who they are, who they love. And you can volunteer to be the family that is there for them. So not, again, just weddings, but also graduations, birthdays. It's really just a spectacular organization. Stand in Pride is what it's called. And you can learn all about it by going back to episode 11. That was from last June when I had Dan on with me. He's a terrific human. Another person that you may want to hear from that's been on the podcast is Sarah Cunningham. She created, and I talked to Nina about this a little bit during this episode, Free Mom Hugs. And she's terrific as well. And her whole story is really inspiring. She was reluctant at first when her son came out to her because of where she lived, what she had been taught through her church, which she no longer belongs to. And she started Free Mom Hugs and is just the proudest mom. And I love everything about that organization and what they are doing and all of the help that they are providing. So that is episode 54. You can check that out as well. Happy Pride. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great week. I will chat with you next week when it will be, believe it or not, July. Bye.